Except for you, Holly, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to the April 9th committee meeting. So we'll start off with presentation from EI Associates on an updated feasibility study.
Thank you for having us back. We'll make this painless. We have about 12 slides. Most of it should be familiar, but there's a few updates with the slides at the end here. So we'll go through real quickly our process. What we look at in feasibility studies are the facilities, demographics, and educational program. We kind of weave in and out of this chart and get to the end results there, identifying the deficiencies, continued evaluation of facilities, and opportunities for the district moving forward. As we mentioned before, we did a thorough evaluation of all the facilities and come up with our chart. We categorized most of the deficiencies by site, exterior, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, come up with a dollar amount and also a cost per square foot. We also looked at safety, security, code, and miscellaneous upgrades. Then we ranked those from rank 1 to rank 4, with rank 1 being hair on fire, we got to get this done, and rank 4 being, hey, if we get to, this is more of a wish list. And then we got 2 and 3, which are in between there. We also further break this down per building on campus here. You can see what some of the problem children are and whatnot. However, that can be a little deceiving because different buildings have different square footages. So our next slide will show you where it kind of breaks out per cost per square foot per building. But as you can see here, the total building deficiencies for the district is right around $36 million plus or minus, based on everything we've identified, ranks 1 through 4. You can see rank 2 is the biggest in terms of dollars and cents with $21 million. And out of all the categories, the interior of the buildings and the HVAC are the biggest issues that need to be addressed for the district. Electrical is a close third. Then we have Penn Kidder and LB Morris, the 2 biggest price tags out of all the buildings. As we break this down further, again, LB Morris, we're roughly about $88 a square foot. Penn Kidder, $1.25. And the high school district administration, about $74 a square foot. To put this in context, we typically use $90 a square foot as our threshold. Typically, if you're at 90 or below, you're in pretty decent shape. You definitely have some things to work on, but you're maintaining your deficiencies, keeping up with things. If you're over $90 a square foot, you definitely have more work to do. Again, to put it in context, we see some districts north of $200 a square foot. I think our all-time high is roughly about $350 a square foot. So, but that also has, I think, 15 buildings and a lot of aging structures. So, but it can get worse if you're, if you put it in perspective here. As you can see here with our different options, last time we were here, we showed options 1 through 3. There was a question asked if we can kind of look at another option, which we did. We actually threw in an additional option above and beyond that, just to kind of put things in context. And as we kind of go through the slides, we'll kind of explain why here. But options 4A and 4B are the new options here that we looked at. We were asked to see if we can do K through 6 at both the Penn Kidder campus and also LB Morris, and move 7th and 8th grade to the high school. As you can see, we did that, we analyzed that, and we have some costs and some other dynamics to show you. But we also looked at a 4A here to see what kind of the cost comparison would be. If it would be in the range, would it be of a value for the district to do that? That would be similar to option number 3, which would be closing the Penn Kidder campus, and then making LB Morris a K through 6, and the high school a 7 through 12. All these options are addressing ranks 1 and 2 deficiencies through all the buildings, in addition to any renovations, alterations, or additions that we would need to make one of these options work. You can also see here with the different options, we kind of put like a little clip notes here. Option number one, we're maintaining 3 schools, but we need 2 additional classrooms for both Penn Kidder and LB Morris, so there'll be small additions for that. So you can kind of see, as we go down here, the different dynamics, like for instance, option 4A, we need to create 25 additional classrooms for LB Morris to make that work, along with 12 additional classrooms at the high school to make moving 7th and 8th grade in there work. With option 4B, basically it's a grade realignment and renovating the spaces at both Penn Kidder and LB Morris. But at the high school, we need to add 12 additional classrooms on that, along with the grade realignment and renovations for that. Any questions so far?
What's the enrollment numbers at LB Morris? Like I want to say the maximum enrollment they would do. Yep, that's what I was looking at.
Yep, that's the next slide here.
Oh.
So yeah, you can see the current stats here. Again, we didn't change anything since last presentation on this, so you can kind of get a sense of where the current enrollments are at. We have circled the high points throughout the years. Total K through 8 enrollment back in 2008, 2009 hit the high point. And you can see total K through 12 hit the high point back in 2012, 2013. We also, with the enrollment, we analyzed it with a couple different methods. As we mentioned last time, method 1, the PDE shows the student enrollment declining by about 156 students. But when we look at method 2, which is projected kindergarten enrollment, we're showing that increasing by over 100 students. So again, it's not, one method, figures it out. It's looking at trends and seeing what's happening year after year and trying to, address the trends and stay current with those. You can see here with the educational summary, we also have capacities for the building, where we're at. These are the current capacities. You can see the over-under number. The total is a little over 2,000 students that all the buildings can handle. And you're currently at 1,686 in terms of enrollment. This chart here is just another representation of the method 1 and method 2. You can see the kindergarten enrollment's going up, and method 1 is going down over the course of a 10-year period. We also put down here, won't spend a lot of time here because it's on subsequent slides, but it shows your existing square footage and then where your square footage goes based on the different options. So you can see, compared to option number 1, the actual square footage goes up compared to where you currently are at, versus say at the low point, option 4A, your square footage is going down. Why that is important? Because those are heating and cooling costs and maintenance costs. That if you decrease that, it's going to decrease your costs overall on that to make your spaces more efficient. And you can also see up here too, your classroom spaces based on the options, what the needs would be here, based on what options are selected. So again, basically we're going to be focusing on 4A, 4B. The costs have not changed 1 through 3 based on our presentation last time. But we have the updated costs for options 4A and 4B, as you can see here. Again, all the options address rank 1 and 2 study costs, and we kind of broke those out. So out of the total construction costs, say at $37 million, we're addressing $18 million worth of deficiencies, ranks 1 and 2. 4B, $34 million construction costs, we're addressing $29 million worth of deficiencies with that option. And you can see the rest from the prior presentation. So we get to the meat of the presentation. Out of these options here, what's the most value? What's going to give the district the most bang for their buck? So before we kind of get into this a little bit, we're at a very high altitude in terms of cost. We were working a little bit with the financial advisor, with the administration, getting some numbers regarding the annual debt load that the district currently has and the projected debt load based off of what option is selected here. The current annual share is about $2.8 million annually the district has on the books. in terms of debt load. This line item here would be the new debt load for the district based off of what option they chose, based on the total project costs that we have up here. We also did a deep dive, I shouldn't say deep dive, we also did a good dive into some of the operating costs. We are very, very conservative with the annual operating expense savings based on which option we're doing. So, for instance, for options 3 and 4A, if we close Penn Kidder, we look at, okay, we don't have to maintain the building, we're saving on utility costs, potentially busing costs, and some other costs throughout, but we don't take a 1-to-1 ratio based on what we know. We typically take, maybe about half, in some cases a third, again, just to be conservative. So we know we have a little bit more fluff in there, that number should go up, the savings should go up, versus picking a number too high, something happens, and then, oh crap, we said we're gonna save $1 million a year in this option, and it's actually $750,000. So again, we're being ultra conservative with the numbers we're putting out here. So you can see on option number 1 here, total project cost is $39 million. The annual share will be right around where you're at now. You're only gonna get about $54,000 worth of energy-related savings on that, because a lot of this for option number 1 is upgrading existing HVAC equipment, because that's one of the biggest efficiencies you have. And it's really important to see this bottom line here, because we take the total share, we subtract out the annual operating expense savings, and we get our actual net share. So this is really showing you the value with the different options of where it'll be at, based on this formula that we use. So we can go through each of these, or we can kind of see the different options here. There's one option in terms of the data, in terms of the value that's kind of standing out. It's this option here. You can see it really gets the annual net share down. And in kind of our discussions here, we definitely understand that there's more here in potential savings that we can get for the district moving forward. Doesn't mean this is the option you select, but what the data is showing is this is giving you a lot of bang for your buck here. So we also looked at option number 3 last time about potentially closing Penn Kidder, building a new school, somewhere on district land. But you can see that really drives up the project cost, and you can see the operating expense savings aren't as great as what we see in 4A here. So it does make a difference on increasing your debt load by almost $1 million, annually on that. So,
question. So when we spoke the last time, we were looking at 7 through 12, possibly at the high school, and possibly if not 7 through 12, maybe 8 through 12. If we did that versus 7 through 12, almost like an option 4C, leaving the K through 7s, leaving it 2 K through 7 buildings, does that reduce the need for additions? It looked like there was going to need to be, if you did that one school down at the LB, I think it said you would need to add 25 rooms, and 12 at the high school to do a 7 through 12. So again, in B, I'm assuming by that same 12 rooms, if you kind of cut that difference, if you made it 7th grade in the elementaries and 8th grade at the high school, what does that do for your number? Is it fair to say it's gonna come right in the middle?
Well, I was gonna ask almost to piggyback off that, because I don't know, and I'm just trying to figure out the 25 classrooms at the LB. The projected numbers for next year for K through 6th grade is 1,020. And you projected at the LB, I think you can fit 1,100 students in there. So I'm trying to figure out why would you need 25 new classrooms in there? The projected numbers, I have the numbers in front of me.
the projected numbers you're saying for the following year are going to be less than they are currently.
Yes, and there's one bubble year, which
There
is
is
the
a
5th grade class, which is 184 students, which will be 6th grade next year. However, the ranges is low right now is our new kindergarten class, which are we're losing, 12th grade this year has 188 students, and they're being replaced by the 8th grade, which has 162 students. And then the year after that is 160. So each year it goes down, except for that one bubble year in 5th grade, which is 184 students.
What we're seeing across the board, a lot of districts, is even if enrollment's going down, the special education needs are increasing. And it's kind of like, you know, it doesn't make sense, but you need more classrooms to address the special education needs, even though enrollment's going down or flatlining. These aren't set in stone. This is just based on good design practices, based on where we're at right now. What we don't want to do either is design something and just fit you in for right now, not understanding that we don't have any for future expansion. That's another thing we hear from district, hey, we don't have enough space, we're, you know, using the stair towers, you know, for storage, or, you know, we're really, you know, using spaces that we shouldn't, for the classroom. So the next layer, depending on what option's selected, we'll start getting into the weeds with that of, is it 22 classrooms versus 25 classrooms? And really go through that process to make sure everybody's comfortable with where it's going, and potentially say if you drop down to 20, can you easily expand that in the future? And is it worth it from a dollars and cents standpoint too? Because construction cost is not going down. That's another wild card we're dealing with right now with the current tariffs. We're seeing some crazy stuff right now. So all these numbers here, keep in mind, you know, we're pre-tariff numbers. So we're keeping an eye on that. And, you know, we're trying to address that the best we can with our projects that are currently in the queue. But one thing we have seen, there's a couple outliers there, construction costs don't come down. So to build something with future expansion now is gonna save the district money versus waiting, you know, 2 or 3 years. But we don't wanna overbuild, to your point. You know, we don't wanna have 10 vacant classrooms sitting there and not being used, or spaces not being used. That doesn't make sense either.
The data just shows that our enrollment's declining.
From that same perspective that Mary is saying with the data, I know from a repairs perspective, Penn Kidder is in, you know, worse shape than the LB. Numbers wise, just for sake of argument on it, in 4A, does the enrollment support leaving Penn Kidder open and LB closed? Again, taking out, I know, I realize there's the difference in the cost on repairs, just enrollment wise, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah, if you can see this here, it looks like, you know, LB Morris is right around 9 million.
Yep.
Penn Kidder is 12.5.
Yeah,
The one thing this doesn't take into consideration either, and again, we're being very conservative with these numbers, because, you know, we don't want to have it go the wrong way on this, is that, say for instance, if you selected option number 4, this doesn't take into account that there's $12.5 million that you don't have to spend on Penn Kidder that you can reallocate to the other buildings. That's not reflected in these savings, along with the potential sale of the building and a number of other savings kind of throughout that. So, as I mentioned before, there were some kind of hidden savings here that can be realized if we kind of start drilling down and really get a sharp pencil if you want to move forward with an option or two, that we can really see the, you know, the true cost and the true value of one of the options.
from a physical space perspective, though, enrollment wise, is there, again, taking out the number, physical space, is there enough physical space at Penn Kidder to put all K through 6? The same way you have them in the LB right now, would that be feasible as well?
I think it was better, from my understanding and kind of going through with our team, it made more sense to do LB Morris based on the layout and based on the
Okay.
condition of it. Could it be done at Penn Kidder? Yes, but I don't think it would be
Again,
as
just
cost
curious.
effective as doing it at LB Morris
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Okay.
I think you were asking, like, is there enough current space to hold everybody?
Yeah, right now, would there be enough
No.
space to hold it, you know, right now, we're looking at the other way, instead of doing it at the LB, the possibility of needing 25 rooms. If it was at Penn Kidder, would it need a possibility of 20 rooms, or 15, you know, just
Right,
size-wise?
right.
Is it equitable?
You mean like the amount of expansion you would need?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yep.
Penn Kidder's enrollment going down, that we're considered closing it? What's the?
Penn Kidder has less students than LB, looking at the data, and that, so each classroom or each grade level is one less teacher here. And I looked at the data, so, but they're very similar, like it's.
So why are we considering closing anything? Where does
Well,
it
these
say?
are all just options
Yeah,
for you
what does it
for you to
say?
look at.
We stay
Because,
status quo.
but if we stay status
It says
quo,
status quo.
Okay, I didn't, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I see it.
Yeah, LB Marsh is about 107,000 square feet, where Penn Kidder is roughly about 97,000 square feet. So they're roughly the same, they're off by a little bit, but just different layouts and different efficiencies, for those.
Does the population in and around Penn Kidder want it closed? Huh? That's what I'm saying.
No.
Nobody, I feel like I can confidently say that there's not a single parent up on top of the mountain that would want to see that school closed.
You wanna see it closed, Holly? You wanna see it closed?
No, why would I?
Well, I don't know.
And Jerry too, and I know we all realize this, when we look at those numbers, there's also going to be a shift in transportation costs and things along those lines too.
I think we addressed our transportation pretty good.
Meaning if we have to take all the kids from the top of the mountain out, all the K kids from the top of the mountain all the way to the bottom every day.
We did, I mean, Rob talked about it, we think there actually might be cost savings
in that,
by
by eliminating routes.
run or two, there may be cost savings.
Yeah, with a quick analysis, I think preliminary estimates were north of $60,000 a year. And we actually do have reflected, within those numbers here too, just for these two options, because the rest kind of maintain all three.
I'm gonna give you a common perspective. There are fist fights on the buses going from Indian Mountain Lake to Penn Kidder on a 5-minute ride. We're now gonna put our 5-year-olds on the bus for 30 minutes to go down the mountain. So again, there's other layers
get it,
there.
yeah.
that, Yes, we think
There'd be
physically,
no 7th and 8th grade bus too.
right, the seventh, eighth grade, we move over to the high school bus.
if we close Penn Kidder,
Right.
so you're still bringing all those kids down.
Yeah.
So what's the next steps, like after, so these are like options.
Correct. Yeah, we're showing you based on the data where the value is for the different options here. The next step is for the board committee, to select which option or two we'd like to drill down and explore further, and to get a sharper pencil. Once we understand those two options, the next step, we start putting in kind of our chart here. We do kind of a phase chart, 5 phases over a 10-year period that basically address the different projects per building, also address different projects on the campus and the site. And then we start looking at the project funding and getting into all this stuff. Please keep in mind too, these operational expense savings, we haven't really even touched upon geothermal or, potentially solar savings if we went in that direction with a new project. So again, that's a whole nother nugget that we can get into that, are some potential pretty significant operational savings that will further positively impact these numbers here. So we, definitely have some work to do, but we don't want to look at those options for every single option that we have up here. That's not a good exercise to go through. We want to narrow this down to 1, maybe 2, and then kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into those 2 options.
So, this project is, it's not next year, it's,
No.
it's way far off, like, I should say a couple of years. So what you brought up, what are the, immediate, like you said, there are things that are on fire that have to be taken care of?
Yeah, this is why we kind of
I
do
was
this
gonna say,
chart
what are we
here.
looking at? Okay.
Yeah, so this isn't your project here, it's just as an example, but we'll have phase 1 being, we're almost halfway through this year. Say we'll start at 2026. What do we have to do right now
Yeah.
or by the end of 2026? And then we have phase 2, which will be another year, and then phase 3, 4, and 5 will be multiple years to kind of push out based on the different rankings and the different priorities. And this will allow us to kind of get a handle on the funding and look at the total project cost of what we're trying to do versus the total project funding and kind of how that whole thing kind of shake out. The ideal situation for any district is not to raise taxes. But we also kind of look at it from the perspective of how do we minimize that based off of our operational savings here. And we've been pretty successful kind of minimizing a millage increase by taking this approach. And we understand the politics of closing any school. We're dealing with a school district that's closing all 3 of their elementary schools, that has a footprint as big as yours. And boy, some of those conversations are pretty intense, but you know, the numbers don't lie of where that value is. And sometimes it's just kind of a mindset adjustment that once you kind of get into it, you realize it's not that bad. But each district has to make that decision on their own and kind of go through that process of what's more important kind of moving forward. A lot of old buildings here, need a lot of maintenance. And if you don't take care of it year after year, that goes up exponentially, the cost that potentially can cause other damage on there. I'm gonna jump ahead here. I have previous presentations in here to kind of answer your question. This is kind of a campus-wide here. HVAC seem to be the biggest dollar amount across the board amongst all the buildings. So you can see here, you're looking at, 7, 8, 9, 10, those, $11 to $12 million versus HVAC. The
This is
good,
where we stay status quo.
yeah, this is based on your deficiencies right now.
Yes.
Good thing about this is, this can give you the biggest bang for your buck in terms of energy savings and cost savings. So whether it's investing in geothermal or high efficiency new units, yes, there's gonna be a price tag here, but you're gonna see operational savings once these are installed for the district. And then you can build on that. And that's typically our approach, or what are the items on this list that are gonna give you the biggest bang for your buck, so you can see the most immediate savings, and then start building from there.
Brian, how much is our electricity cost per year for the entire district? About $500,000?
I think all the utilities.
Just signed the high school electrical bill this month, or last month, was $16,900.
But for the year, about $500,000?
Probably pretty close to 5,500.
So if we put solar in, we're gonna save some money.
Yeah, but then the cost of solar, that.
Well, that's the key.
Yeah.
If we had jumped in when they, PPL, wanted to give us $1 million to get us off the grid, we just were late doing that, or else we'd have our own solar arrays now already. I would understand status quo with the board members.
And, last time we talked about this, I know it was said to be an emotional piece to it. And yes, 100% it is. I mean, we said we have a responsibility to our taxpayers. We do. We have a responsibility to our constituents. And if they're vocalizing that this is not something that they believe to be beneficial, that's also something that we need to hear beyond just a fiscal number. Yes, they are taxpayers, and yes, we have a fiscal responsibility there, but we have a responsibility to the children. And if the taxpayers are saying they want option 1 and status quo, I do think that that's going to be important for us to consider when we do make our decision on what's going to happen.
Is our enrollment, what do we have, like about 100 kids that go to the low-tech now?
A little under that, but yeah, generally close to 100, like
Close to 100?
80 to 90 a
So
year.
is that considered in this? We have a low-tech, I mean, is that enrollment,
I don't think it is, because the 499 is what we have in the building, that number you had
We're
earlier.
focusing on what's in the
So I
building.
would say no.
Keep in mind too, and again, this is based off our experiences that we see kind of working with a lot of districts. It's very tempting to go with the low first cost here with status quo. But you're gonna be doing this same amount, actually it won't be the same amount, it'll be incrementally higher every 6 to 10 years based on what comes up. This is gonna be a reoccurring cost every time. And part of going through this exercise is, how do we get ahead of this? How do we invest in the future of our district? So that we're not taking the Band-Aid approach and just getting into this reoccurring cycle, we're kicking it to the next board, that, hey, this 40 million might be 50 next time we do it. might be 60, because again, construction costs aren't coming down. And this is, we're seeing this kind of time and time again. Again, it's tempting. Everybody's so focused on that first cost, whether it's for the personal budgets or for the district. This is why we go through this exercise, so you can see, yes, these are the first costs, but this is what you're saying, this is what you're actually paying down here based off the whole kit and caboodle here, where the value is. And again, we understand that there's emotionally charged, dynamics you have to work with within your district, but this also shows a responsibility to the taxpayers that you're considering this and trying to find that balance between the two of not one extreme or the other, so.
Where are we spending this $40 million in, status quo?
Yeah, the total project cost for this is $39.5, so round it up to 40.
$1 million.
Correct.
But where are we spending?
Basically, it's just, you're doing a grade realignment, for both Penn Kidder and LB Morris, going K through 8, and you're addressing the ranks 1 and 2 deficiencies. That's all you're doing there. I think there's a small addition to do the K through 8 at both of those, to add a couple classrooms to each.
We are at K through 8.
Right, that was the status quo, yeah, but there is an addition on that because we're running out of space at this one building. So,
It's a special education dynamic and just making sure you have space to potentially grow. So it's gonna be hard to get not kind of doing anything in terms of, addition wise based on where you're currently at and your current needs. And again, you're not the only district kind of going through this, especially with special education. We're seeing this across the board, and but yeah, I mean, your lowest, as you mentioned, your lowest first cost is right here, option number 2 at $36 million. It has a close value point to option number 3, but you're getting a lot more bang for your buck in terms of, operational savings, and kind of consolidation. And there's the whole educational piece, what is, a better dynamic for the students. Having everybody in one spot, teachers working off the same playbook versus, the same grades in different buildings. There's something to be said for that also.
Well, that's why we hire Kathy and Kim, to make sure it stays like that in both buildings. But this here, $2.69 million annual net share, is that what, if we were to do that and we borrowed the $40 million, is that what our payment annually would be in addition to?
In addition to our current.
This would be your payment here, yeah, correct. Your current debt load, I believe, sunsets in 2031?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so, the ideal situation, if you were to pick up additional debt, is to kind of restructure the current debt and kind of balance it out through your next X amount of years. That would be the ideal situation. The way it's currently structured, that what we receive back, and again, we're very high altitude, there's an overlap from about 2027 to 2031. Kind of doubling up there. We're using where it kind of levels off and is consistent, and we think we can get there with the restructuring or potentially pushing some projects where we need to kind of push them. But our goal is to try to keep this, as balanced as we can kind of across the board. This is what you'll be paying in terms of dollars and cents, but this is the value in terms of, this is all the money you're saving that you're not paying, that you currently are paying, on your utilities, your operating expenses, and everything else. So when you look at those two, do the math, you're getting your net annual share here, if you're actually ahead of the game, based off of what option you select. Does that make sense? I know it's kind of a,
I think I understand.
Do a lot of school districts, do, anything with community input, like do they have,
yes. Yeah, we've presented at community forums, and some of them
I
are
definitely feel like,
more tame than others.
I don't know how you feel, Robert, if you have a plan.
no, I definitely think it has to go out to the community
Yeah, I
and
was
get,
gonna say,
and get input.
it-
But the thing is, like, if we were to choose a couple options to really drill down to and really make that a fine-tuned number, and then say, we're going to spend it. We're going to spend money one way or the other to
Right.
fix these buildings, but what's the best way to do it?
Is there any opportunity to get some money back from the state on any of these?
There's no more plan, John.
Yeah.
I think there is, depending on
No.
the structure. Elmer got some money from the state under planning and construction.
You'd have to look into that. I know they're rebooting, Governor Shapiro's rebooting, I think it's Act 34, Act 33.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's definitely they've allocated money for that. We're keeping our finger on the pulse with grants. Again, right now, it's just a crazy time with trying to keep track of everything, day to day. So as we come across the information, we get a handle on it, we'll definitely share it with the district, because we're looking for opportunities to save you guys money also. And we help writing grants, with past districts, and, you know, it's a win-win.
What's the timeline, what's your plan?
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, it's not gonna make it into this budget. We do have some money, we do have money put in the budget to do things that have to get done immediately. But this would be looking at it into like next year, and then not actually, then you gotta wait for construction. So at minimum, you're 3 years out before we move into a building.
Maybe two, depending on the
Yeah,
option. but-
maybe 2, depending on what we do.
Yeah.
I would like to spend that now at least 5 million.
So,
This also doesn't take into consideration of any, you know, capital expenditures, as you guys just mentioned here, that any cash you have on hand. This is just a pure borrowing exercise,
Right.
as they would say. So, again, this doesn't tell the whole story. We're only expecting it to get better from here as we kind of drill down with a couple options.
so our next step is picking 2 options to talk about.
Next step is to go do a survey first, and then right? Sort of. before
I think
do
I think we
anything.
have to, yeah, I don't know how Rob's looking at that. So
Well, I mean, do you want to put the survey out there without any numbers behind it? Or, because some people will look at it as fiscally, and some people look at it as where I want my child to go. And some people look at it both areas.
Right, yeah, whatever.
I think we could probably talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Next, but
What our next move is.
I think it would be also important too, to get a financial advisor to kind of really, do a good chart and just see what the millage impact would be and run a couple scenarios on that versus it might not be as bad as, you know, it might be perceived out in the public too. Again, you have to kind of minimize that, you know, ultimately, but they can go through a few different exercise, game planning on, hey, if we did this, it's one thing, if it's this, it's another. Maybe it's more cash on hand, maybe it's kind of spreading it out a little bit more. There's a lot of different options so that we can kind of present this in the right way, not just saying, hey, there's a big tax increase coming out. You know, here it is. You know, that's never gonna go over, you know, with any, community.
What amounts to reduce taxes, not increase them. So now, what's the architect and engineer expense cost on some of these projects?
On this,
Yeah.
typically with projects, you know, north of 20 million, we do a percentage of construction costs. That's the easiest way to do it because there's so many ebbs and flows on that.
$20 million, what are those costs?
It could range anywhere from, you know, 5% to 7%, you know, for professional fees and getting the Google to put it together. That's what this total project cost includes that, is to go back to here, this is just the construction cost, this is kind of the all-in cost, professional fees, regulatory stuff, you name it. You know, we want to give you the overall number too, so again, we're not just adding stuff on top of it, that you're planning properly, you know, for the district. And again, these numbers should give, well, I won't say that anymore because of the tariffs, but, you know, these are our best.
And the money those costs are, and they're not, expecting for that, those costs. If we don't do anything, those costs go away.
Any other questions? Then we can sit down with
What about the administrator?
the
Do you have any
committee,
questions or anything?
the, Buildings and Grounds Committee, we can sit down together and take a look. All right. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
we'll go into the next one. Let's see. So I know we have Tanya and Fawn are here. They both have FBLA and the special ed department have come to me regarding clothing bins that can be placed on district property for a special. The FBLA, it's as a place for, they pay, what, they pay 5 cents?
It's 10.
10 cents a
I
pound?
can-
Yeah, sure, if you want to.
So obviously, we look for different ways that we can raise funds to help reduce our students' costs, whether it's fundraising or ways that we can bring it in without having to solicit other things. So this opportunity came to us, actually, I had originally found it, one of the science teachers forwarded it to me, because this is a reduce, reuse, recycle type of scenario. What happens with these bins is they would be on, we're looking to put them on LD and Penn Care, because they have specific distances away from each other. It's 10 cents a pound, and they take anything textile related, including shoes. Like we do a shoe drive for good used shoes. This will take those extra shoes that we can't take, and they will recycle the rubber and the textiles and things like that. We have no liability for it. There are absolutely no costs associated with it. We receive 10 cents a pound. They have electronic monitoring within the bin, so when they get to about 2/3 full, they automatically send people out. If anything would happen on the outside of the bins, if materials would be, like if people would they said they never have issues with them overflowing. They will come out if something is set outside it. If there's graffiti on it, they will instantly come out and paint it. Like I said, there's no liability whatsoever, no cost whatsoever with having it on the property. It's always, they said it's always very clean. And then, like I said, we get paid once a month on it. It's a 1-year contract. What else?
That's pretty much it. The only thing I would say as far as a cost possibly on us is if we need to level ground where to place the bin. That would be the only thing that would reflect on us. And Charlie backed me on this, pretty much they can just scrape the ground and we can dump some
Yeah,
stuff.
I don't know how level it would need to be. I've dealt with these before. They're pretty solid. They're all welded materials and just one little hinge open, and it can sit on pretty unlevel ground.
And each building will have a key, just in case, if we had to get in for some reason. If somebody threw something in there that they shouldn't have or whatever, we can open it to get it back out for them.
And it's also safe, there's no way that a child could climb into it. There's no access, that would be any kind of safety hazard.
We have clothing giveaways at the schools.
We do. This would be more so for things that isn't of the caliber that we need.
Who goes through that?
The company does.
Who determines what's, like when you have.
Individual people would, so they would decide like, this is, and instead of going it's to reduce what goes in landfills as well, so they recycle it. It's not necessarily, so we would still be able to have people donate towards the Olympic threads. They wouldn't take away from that, it would just be those, ratty clothes, dirty clothes, soiled clothes. One shoe, we can't find the other shoes, that kind of thing.
And they take the bedding, anything.
Any textile.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did get donations for like Olympic threads and things like that, but then, you get some good ones that we're gonna sell, and some that, we need to get rid of. So something like this is a way that we can just, put them in.
Don't put them in, don't put them in our.
Our only problems, I know it's been discussed before, is, we've seen the bins at other locations, we've seen like where people just come and drop things off. So that becomes a concern of, will people just drop things off that aren't recyclable?
If they do within 24 hours, the company comes, as soon as we contact them, the company comes out within 24 hours and they clean it up. If one shoe is laying outside of it, they said, we don't even pick that up. We contact them, they come out and they do it.
Who's got monitor on a daily basis? To make sure
Like
they're
outside it.
Yeah.
They're gonna be in a visible area and
I'm sure that our FBLA advisors that will, clean it up at or at LBN, and we need it to make sure. They'll be in a visible place that we'll be able to see
Yeah.
them, so you could.
Just as long as somebody looks at them every day.
Right, yeah.
the company, this company in particular, they ask that they can get placed in a visible area. from the roadway, because it's not only school families that could drop in that, it is community members as well. And a well-lit area, so that if somebody's driving by, in the evening, to just throw it in. So I did talk with Holly a little bit up at Penn Care a couple months ago, when we first got all this together in February, and, get to the building administrators where it goes.
So this is something that, is brought to me by SBLA and by the Life Skills Program, because they have told me that to get rid of them. Instead of us trying to put it in our dumpsters, just put it in the landfill, you might be able to get.
My only concern is that I would want access to one at the high school, or I can contact them today, I'm waiting for a response as to whether or not we could, hold the bags and have them pick them up. I'm not sure what the answer is gonna be about that. I don't want the community to put good clothes in there that we can use through the thrift store. So that reduces the amount of opportunities that our kids have to learn the skills that they're learning in that room. So that's my only concern about having the public drop it off in there, is they could be putting in Louis Vuitton bags that we could sell. Like, people have Coach bags that might not be good for me anymore, but someone else would be very happy to buy it for the price that we sell it in the store. So, that we have purses down there. So that's my only concern about having them available for the public on our property, because that takes away the learning opportunity for our program.
Mostly parents and relatives give clothing to that friends. Maybe this would encourage other people, that don't have kids in the schools, put that.
And that's very possible, but we're happy to go through that. The only way that we're gonna maintain our program is through continuous donations. So we don't want, other schools have seen patterns of either when they stop asking for donations and saying they're full, or they have local bins like this on other properties, or local Salvation Armies, like they already go like, oh, I give it to the Salvation, I give it to this, I give it to that, and then they don't wanna give it to the school anymore because this one's closer, that one's closer. So then it reduces our opportunity if we have too many of them nearby.
So is the school community aware that the school takes clothing in?
I've sent out stuff to the staff and the student emails, I think, so far. We're still getting ready to open, and I have 20 boxes in my office of back stock, so we're still on the cusp of being open full-time for the students each morning and stuff. So, and we just, for the one fire relief collection, we are a little bombarded at the moment. So we have plenty of clothes to go through right at this moment. But this is just planning for in the future, because then when we start getting donations and some of them are soiled or just not acceptable, for us to maneuver, then we have to get rid of those. So if we have these available, we can get rid of those unacceptable clothes here, and then we're still making money back on it. And then our students can learn how to do all of that, and then still do that as part of another skill that they can grow on.
So any questions or any suggestions on this, or is it something that you would like us to look at, move forward with?
And I just have a question. This keeps saying clothespin. Is that the brand of your company?
That's the name.
So mine is Planet Earth.
Yeah, I have yours on here too, because I know you gave me both.
So I think it's two different companies.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'd have to look at which company, I really don't want two different companies, but we have to look at which company is the one. And look at both of the contracts, see what they.
Yeah, I looked at both of what was posted, and reviewed them. As I said, we get 10 cents for the clothespin, Planet Aid, I think it was 5 cents, and then there were some other costs in the contract for Planet Aid. Like if you get rid of them before a certain time period and things like that, the clothespin contract does not have any costs associated with it whatsoever.
Okay. So if you're okay with this, then we will look at it. Is it something that you want me to put onto an agenda to be approved for us to get into this? Or?
One other positive on this, we're hoping that if it is producing some money, that's possibly less fundraising that our children are gonna have to go out and do. Because as everybody is aware, all the kids do, it seems, is try to raise money for stuff. So we're
Right.
hoping this is gonna cut down a lot on the FBLA expenses. You know, we have several kids now that are going to nationals. We
Just
just
got back
finished
today.
states today. Both LB, well, all three schools did very well with placing, so.
So Fawn, I'm trying to, I'm just making sure I understand this. So this is basically recycling a lot of the materials that's being dropped off. You're saying you have another bin where
We didn't know, I think that this was happening at the same time, so around the same time, we both submitted to Rob that we were interested
Right.
in a similar situation.
but yours is taking the clothing that you're.
That we get in
donated
excess.
And using it for
Our program.
your program.
Yeah, so those funds would also go to the life skills program for like their trips and things like that to offset those costs.
So their box will be at the high school and yours will be at the elementary school.
And it does the
Two
same
middle
thing,
schools.
just
This
to
will be a
make sure
middle
I'm
school.
Yes, they said they will come pick it up and monitor it like the same way.
That's what I was wondering, I was confused, but thank you. Yes, I feel we can put it on the agenda.
Okay, all right, perfect. Let's see, Penn Kidder boiler.
We're down to one boiler, hot water, domestic water boiler at,
Yeah, this isn't the heating boiler.
No,
This
no.
is the domestic.
This is, for the domestic hot water at the sinks, the kitchen. There's two boilers, redundant boilers. One is done, the casing's cracked. The other one is, not doing too well. And so I put a request out to KPN to give us, numbers on replacement boilers over the summer. And what you'll notice in this cost is there's controls cost and things like that. We're not gonna utilize their services for that. So the 108 that you see there is not the actual cost. It's actually $80,901. That's with the summer credit and us doing the controls through NRG, our building automation system.
How old's the boiler?
I'm sorry.
How old's the boiler that you're replacing? Can you do that?
I'm being told they're 7 years old. I can't find any documentation on them. They are glass lined, which, yeah. And what's happening is the one that's running is really struggling to keep up with the demand, especially when the kitchen's running.
Right, so there's two up there, but right now, we only have one that is running.
But you're gonna bid it out, right?
Oh, it's already been bid out. This is the lowest bid back from KPN. This is Gordian. Yeah, so it's been bid out.
So will we get a revised job order or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I hand wrote that in there just so we wouldn't get confused with the bottom line number up there.
And Brian, if you want to talk about the finance.
Yeah, we didn't budget for it, obviously, but, we do have money in the capital improvement account, about $394,000. I recommend we take it from there. And we did budget for our roof project this year, with an overage, there would be some money in the current general fund budget for project like this too.
I don't see how we can't do it, it's a need, it's one of those
Yeah.
fire items that they were talking
Right.
about, so.
Well, the cafeteria uses a lot of.
I was gonna say, that there's
Right.
not so much.
And the water has to be a certain temperature coming there for their like dishwashing to get hot enough to meet like state regs. So we need to make sure we have operational.
Okay, yes, let's go on the agenda.
So I will need you can get a new one?
I'll get a revised proposal tomorrow.
Okay.
Rob, before
Yes.
we go on there, Charlie, can you just give an update on the mice and the moles going
Yeah.
on at Penn?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so, just so you all know, the Friday night, late in the night or evening, before the custodians would go home. The tech who's been setting all the traps out there and checking them and giving me the numbers, he stops there every Friday night, 9:30, 10 o'clock, on his way home, sets a bunch of traps around the whole building. And then he comes in Monday morning before everybody's there, collects all the traps, writes down the information, gives it to me. We have not caught a single mouse inside the building.
Right.
And, well, today, see, this is old news for me.
Okay.
So,
That would-
but we didn't catch a single mouse up until today in the building.
And correct me if I'm wrong, when they came out the first time, they did find a few holes that
Oh,
were
yeah,
filled
yeah,
in
we
and
did,
right?
we did. And there's only one of those holes that's still open.
Okay.
And it's only because we have multiple traps on the outside collecting mice and moles from that hole. I don't want to plug it until we don't catch anything anymore, because I want them out of the building. So I gotta leave the hole. They come out to get in the trap. As soon as I have 3 days of nothing in those traps, I'm gonna plug that hole.
Okay.
So, other than that, I know we had a wasp problem out there, but, that was, seemed to come and go.
Right.
Yeah, well, and that's it, we're,
And some of that information that parents were putting out today and last night is from 3 weeks ago.
Right.
correct.
And somebody had made a statement on there, and they said, well, this child and in this teacher's room, that teacher doesn't even have that child. So there was a lot of incorrect information on there. It was information that was old from 3 weeks ago,
Yes.
when it was being first addressed. So I just wanted you to know.
Yes, and that's why, Charlie, that's why I wanted you to share that too, so
Right.
that in our community meeting, it is known, this has been something that has been being addressed.
Yeah, they're addressing things that were, came up to us a month ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've already taken care of that. All other holes have been
Charlie
plugged.
given up.
Any small hole that was found, they plugged it with like a wire mesh, but there is still one that's being still trapped. But as far as that, I've been up to see the custodians, and did you find anything? And they're like, once in a while, we find like a dropping or something like that, and then we clean it before the kids come in, and then that's it, and then we're done.
Oh, and the toys were washed. The toys were cleaned.
Okay, we're on a mountain, we're in fields,
Right.
it's,
And it was amazing when-
Getting addressed, so.
When the heavy ice back there started to melt, all you saw were tunnels for these things running all through the field. And like that school's in the middle of the field. So, but again, we're looking at it and,
Thank you
you know,
for staying on it.
yeah, it's been addressed and
Yep.
so hopefully that's gone. Let's see. Okay, so just to move on to the last meeting, I was asked to present on the social workers and the PIMS situation. So I presented on that. So then Mary told me to split up between 2 meetings. So this meeting we'll talk about the last couple positions that we were looking at to decide whether or not we want to do these. So for this one, we're going to look at special education supervisor with a BCBA or ABA experience, 2 to 3 additional special education teachers, which we're going to look at why, and then also like a district attendance truancy officer. I don't know if I can. Let me put this on slide.
I think there's a board member joining on.
Do what?
Is the extra noise or some of, I think.
No, that's Chris is not up there. Okay, so what are the benefits of a special education supervisor, like for student success? There's tailored research-based behavior interventions will improve academics and student engagement in the classroom. It improves active participation and inclusion in all settings because of the person who has the BCBA. You get gains in adaptive and social skills. It increases administrative attendance at IEP meetings for those students with a background in special education with behaviors. The LEA meetings and support, they can attend LEA meetings and support the return plans out of district placed students. They develop and oversee functional behavioral assessments and positive behavior support plans, which we definitely need. So the BCBA can do that. Collaborates with staff and families in a proactive manner, and the board certified behavioral analysts are trained in applied behavior analysis. So that ABA is what we're really looking for. So it'll help students, one. What to do for teachers, that special education supervisor with those type of credentials can model in-class support for academic and behavioral initiatives, so they can help regular ed and special ed teachers. You can monitor and model data-driven academic interventions and have the ability to order resources as needed to follow the IEPs. The board certified behavior analysts are trained in applied analysis, behavior analysis, provide in-class modeling, data collection, and support with the PBIS, as well as the PBSP interventions. They also, could be part of, well, no, they can't be part of that, 'cause- never mind. Ongoing professional development, they can provide that to our teachers. In those, again, we're struggling with those behaviors, and we can have somebody here that can actually teach the teachers how to help them. Improves classroom management through modeling and classroom-wide PBS plans. Reduces teacher burnout with additional support and in-person training, because we all know teaching is tough and it just gets tougher, okay? And when you have students in there with behavioral concerns, they kind of eat up your time, and we have to try to support them the best we can, and having somebody with these types of skills will help our teachers out. What's new for admin? Well, only Act 93 staff are able to review, evaluate, and oversee legal documents, provide corrective feedback, while holding staff accountable. So if they have that, the BCBA can't go into a classroom if they're part of the teacher's contract and tell a teacher, hey, you have to do this. This is how you need to do it. But being part of an administrative team, they have the ability to do that, and they can now tell them what they need to do. Increased attendance of special education administration at IEP meetings with specialized background. Right now, if Fawn can't make meetings, the principal's sitting on them, and they don't necessarily have that specialized background that is needed. They can attend out-of-district LEA meetings, so we have a lot of students that are outplaced. And support the return plan of out-of-district students back to district programs. They assist school administration with observations and evaluations. If they're an Act 93 with an admin cert, they can help observe and evaluate teachers. Compliance review of all special education student records. That's a key thing to make sure that we are staying in compliance. Assistant Director of Special Education in recommending policies, procedures, and programs essential to the needs of students with disabilities and gifted education students. Assistant Director of Special Education in supervision and coordination of special education and gifted education programs and ancillary services. Can assist the Director of Special Education in coordinating services, maintaining records, and submitting required reports involving students with disabilities and/or gifted education students. And they can assist the Director of Special Education in monitoring compliance with policies, procedures, laws, regulations, guidelines, and addressing non-compliance issues. So not only can they help the students and the teachers, but they can help the whole admin staff get these things. Why do we need more education teachers? One, we have to distribute the overburdened caseloads that are at or near state maximum requirements. So we have several special ed teachers who are at max. So say if our K-2 is at max, we may have somebody who is a 5th grade in that range taking on a kindergarten because because they have room on their caseload for it. So they don't necessarily see it, but the K-2 is maxed out, so they can't take it out.
Are the caseloads right now assigned to the grade level? Is a 4th grade special ed teacher caseload case manager for 4th grade special education students? It's spread out. Everyone has a 2 to 3 year gap right now currently. There are some that have enormous gaps because of caseload sizes. So we have a K-2 teacher at the LB who has been maxed for a long time. And so then as all of the K-3 kids are getting evaluated and then placed, we have an 8th grade teacher with kindergarten on their caseload. In the LB, there are 5 teachers who have kindergarten classrooms. Is that a change this year?
It is
It sounds like it may be.
if you assign students only to a grade, there's not enough teachers.
Oh, no, I'm aware, yeah.
And then if you assign students to 2 grades, what happens is then you have to look at how many levels of differentiation of instruction do you have to support the many varied levels of the kids. So not everyone is getting
And that's where you have the trouble with an 8th grade teacher having a kindergartner on their caseload because you can't even get the 2 people to talk with one another.
Correct.
So
Right.
I think,
But,
that's
yeah.
all I'm.
But that's an extreme situation, but that's strictly because the person is maxed out and cannot take it.
Could we make adjustments?
Well-
Make adjustments to that.
We have a slide coming up, so I can show some of it.
Yep.
The first class teacher at the LB is maxed out. The next kids went to the second teacher. She's now maxed out. They went to the third teacher. She's now maxed out. So we're only at like 5th and 6th grade and up now who can take any of the kids who are evaluated because there is no place to go.
I mean, it's a no-brainer because it's a compliance issue. I mean, it's, right?
Right, so we are looking at, so again, we're trying to ensure legal compliance, again, reduce burnout in that special ed department, improve academic performance levels, overall outcomes for students, and we want to start moving towards a co-teaching model where we're pulling kids into the core with special ed support, but right now we don't have enough teachers to do that model effectively. Okay, so we're trying to get students, because you should have them in a least restrictive environment. So if they can handle a core with support, they should be in the core with support. They shouldn't be pushed out. And we're trying to make sure that we are doing that in all areas that we possibly can. So for learning support, if they're itinerant, they can have 50 kids on their caseload. If you have supplemental kids, that's 20. If you have full-time, you're allowed to have 12 on your caseload. And if you look at the bottom of this screen, you'll see right here, like K-3 has 19, this is maxed out. Now, it doesn't have 20, but you look at the formula down here, what it takes is how many kids with supplemental, okay, how many they can have, they've used up 0.65, okay? Then how many itinerants do they have, that comes to 0.25, you put them together, you get 0.9. They can go to 1, okay? So in essence, that teacher can still take 2 students and make the 1 full-time equivalent. Okay, so when you look at this 19 is, they may have a full-timer in here, which takes up more spot, and now they're gonna sit at 1. So, and then this one sits at 1. So the more itinerant students you have, the more supplemental, then your numbers get moved up to, if we get to 0.1, that's when we're full. Oops, wrong way. Questions on that?
Can I ask you?
Yes, go ahead, yeah.
My understanding is that this is a different paradigm than has been used in the past. And not that one's right, one's wrong, it is what it is, but it sounds like a concern that's coming up there, concern I hear from the buildings too, is that there's a disconnect, meaning again, right, it might be an 8th grade case manager with a kindergartner, there's no time to connect, they don't see each other, but that it hasn't been like that. Before this, Elaine, I think
Well,
I might jump in.
we also, well, last year, there was some special ed teachers that weren't replaced,
Right.
which now put a strain on the system.
Right.
So sometimes when we don't replace, it looks like we can get by, but then in actuality, we get more kids in, and we get more kids, and now we can't get by. So this is actually like a replenishment of some positions that were not replaced.
So how many positions are you looking for special ed teachers?
Minimum of 2.
And where are they going to be placed?
It's likely gonna be 1 at Penn Kidder and 1 at LB, but as of right now, LB has a much more dire need for them, so I would love to see 2 at the LB and 1 more at Penn Kidder.
So you're asking for 3 special ed teachers?
And we're also looking at the way it's aligned, we are looking at how those grades are aligned and how those teachers are aligned, and we are working with the teachers and with.
I met with all the teachers in
Yeah,
K to 8
and-
individually and asked them all for their wish list, and they all said they would like a 2-year gap. They're fine with 2. There are unique situations throughout where when scheduling was done, people were teaching kids not even in their span. So we're well aware that's gonna be a change that we make. We already have like plans between all of the administrators to sit down. I'm meeting with Kim and Kathy on Friday, looking at all the input I got from the staff, as well as the independent reading scores for students and independent math scores for students. Because we're also looking at, and part of the suggestion for this change was, we have students who are very significantly far below the grade level that they should be functioning on. And so to have them all in the same classroom is not beneficial. But if you have one person teaching reading all day, it's much easier to group whenever they can and take them. Whether or not that was applied the way or however, yes, there are changes we're gonna make to some of those suggestions, but we do have to look at, we can't just have all the 4th grade kids go to 4th grade learning support because that doesn't work either.
What percentage of our students are special ed in the district? Are we at 25%?
I believe we're over.
We are getting close.
Do we have an
Many, many more than
MTSS program?
We just started it this year. Trying to keep them out of
Right.
So we brought that was one of the things like we brought back was one of the teachers that we took out of Penn Kidder was a learning support, moved into the MTSS position, tried to do that position. Because we weren't doing that with Fidelity.
We also never replaced Chris Snyder with the Penn from 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
Right. So again, when we looked at it, now we're getting a major influx of learning support students. So we didn't replace looked fine 2 years ago, where now they're not. So like we need to correct this.
Well, and we have a lot of kids who we're identifying now, working through compliance and working through parent requests, and as MTSS is finding new students, so we've identified a lot of students this year as well.
Majority of our kids who transferred in this year were special ed or needed to be tested. It's been a lot,
The BCBA position is not an Act 93 position, and is something that we look at to have in classrooms. How does that help with caseloads? BCBA could be a case manager, correct? And I know in the end, right now are contracting, correct me if I'm wrong on the number, it's about $90,000 a year for BCBA for 2 students, but we would be looking to hopefully have that in more. We need hands on the ground. We need hands on the ground, we need.
A
the kids.
BCBA cannot do caseload management.
Okay.
They would need to have a teaching certificate, which they may or may not have. They could not be a case manager for that.
We need hands on the ground.
Mhm.
In classrooms, so for example, and I know we've been teaching and we've been giving them great strategies, resources, programs. If I'm in a classroom and I'm restraining a child in a special education classroom and my instructional aide is in here and she's helping me diffuse the situation, my other 6 kids are over here, and what I hear, and I hear it from the actual student's mouth, is, I just watched a movie today, we didn't do reading. We need physical people that can do it and help that. Is that something, again, not only look at these special ed teachers, of course, that's there. Is that something we can look to use BCBA for something more along the lines, I don't say of a floater, but where we know we have these needs, and we're doing FBs, and we're going into rooms, and we're seeing.
Our BCBA does that now,
Mhm.
but to go to
Twice
the
a
other, what's that?
Yeah,
Twice a week.
yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
2 days a week.
But to go to that other comment, I have not had one reported restraint all year.
I'm in this, there's been some things going on, that one is not, that is an instance from last year.
Oh, okay.
There are instances where, like, maybe a better way for me to say it is, where you need more than one adult to help diffuse a situation in a classroom. And then you having, whether it's in an emotional support, a learning support, whatever classroom, whatever pull-out
It
classroom.
could be in a regular
it
ed
could be in a
classroom
regular
that
ed
the teacher
classroom.
has 15 kids and she's got one behavior child, and now what is she doing? And
That's
I
where we're
remember when
losing
at
it.
some point we said, what about the academics for the 15 other children in that class? And we were told that that does not trump or supersede, right?
Unfortunately, by law, it does
I
not.
know.
By
But
law,
you
it
know what?
doesn't, but as a parent, you need to fix that. and
No,
make sure that
I
we're
agree
focusing on
with
all
you.
of our kids.
But
Do our
when,
caseload
when,
managers
we've had some students,
see the kids on a daily basis, know what's going on? Do they know their kids?
I have seventh graders on my caseload, and I do not see them. I know them because I taught them in fifth grade. So.
How does that work?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
It doesn't. The issue, honestly, guys, and I'm gonna say it because you know I'm retiring and I can say it, it's not you. It's the prior board where their mentality was do more with less. And we heard that over and over and
And you
over. Mr.
can't.
Presley, you might not have been here, but that was what we were told, do more with less, do more with less. Well, now,
We
you're
have a
seeing the
volcano.
results of it. You're seeing people leave because they're just like, I can't keep doing this. I mean,
You know what's
it's-
funny, Phil? You're
we
seeing
need
kids
support
leaving
in those
because of it.
classrooms.
There's a child in my daughter's class that left because you're not learning. There's
They're
kids
not.
leaving that are going to CCA and are going and doing these other things because they're not learning because of what's going on in their classroom.
Our kids are suffering, and
They
they're
are.
suffering bad.
It's bad. We need to
And
fix
our stats are showing it.
Do you look at hiring people who are purely just behavior interventions?
Do we?
That's the
that's,
RBTs.
that was one of my suggestions, was to hire RBTs.
When I worked for IU 29, I had 11 staff who purely dealt with behavior. They were the staff that were trained to be hands-on. They were the staff that were thoroughly just for behavior so the teacher could continue to teach. They didn't necessarily always stay in a classroom. They floated where they
Yes.
needed to be.
Yes.
Do you look at doing something like that?
You're
Try
right.
to-
Well, now again, we're looking at social workers as well,
Social
which
workers
will be,
eliminate the need for RBTs. I mean, I think we all agreed on that the last time. No, they don't at all, not even a little bit.
They're more-
Right,
they're
that's-
more of a-
We need people to help the kids.
We cut, and the only thing it's reflecting is the education the kids are getting. And they're
Correct.
not
Yes.
getting it,
Correct.
whether they're special ed or if they're regular classrooms.
And it's
They're
not
not
the
getting
lack of the teachers.
It's not the
the
teacher's
teachers'
fault.
fault.
It is
I just
100%
wanna
not the
make sure
Yes,
that
teacher's
teachers
fault.
work hard.
Yes, they work too hard.
The special
They
ed
do.
teachers work their butts off, the
Yes.
regular teachers work their butts off, the aides do too.
That's not what we're saying.
They're
We're teaching
educated,
and cutting.
God said, they're,
And I know everybody very much appreciates the additional people coming in to try to do training and modeling. Those are great resources, but it
it's
doesn't
not-
replace a person helping
It's not,
kids.
we need to address the kids' issues.
and again, we would love to address that, and Brian will give the budget proposal here soon. I'm just gonna, you haven't raised taxes in this district in 13 years, and it's starting to catch up.
Yeah.
Because our budget shortfall is going to be well over $3 million. When Brian shows his budget. So I'm just letting you know, like, all those things are great, but they all cost money.
Absolutely.
And what are we either getting rid of? How are we saving money? Because we all know that 80% of a school's budget or more is salary and benefits. It's fixed.
That's every
So
business.
if we want to hire these things, we have to pay for them somehow.
Which is, I think, where we all kind of have that feeling, the teaching positions and that type of thing, I feel like we're very much supportive.
Right.
I will be very honest.
And you absolutely have good support.
On the first one, when you called it an Act 93.
Yep. So that's those two. Oops, sorry, I'm going the wrong way. The last one we talked about was district attendance or truancy officer. At the previous session I was at, we actually took a teacher who wanted to do this and was the district attendance and truancy officer for the whole entire district. This eats up, all of our buildings fall below the state average for chronically absent students. Every single one of them. The high school has a TSI designation due to attendance. The assistant principal's time is being spent on, they gotta track the attendance, communicate with students, communicate with parents. You have to then issue letters, then you would then have to run safe meetings. You then have to go to the magistrate, you have to file the charge with the magistrate, then you have to go to the magistrate. This takes up so much time of the assistant principal's job. Ryan, how many have you done this year?
I think, I don't know, I'm probably about at 50 between the end of February to now. I just got the boat loaded into May.
Right.
And
You were at court today.
I was just at court today.
And why don't the kids wanna come to school? Are you bored? There's nothing to look forward to? No?
I have no push. It's weird because I was just telling Tom on CNN, they had a segment on kids not coming to school. It's not only Jim Thorpe, it's everywhere across the country.
It's everywhere.
And with the cell phone thing, it was on that night too. I said to Tom, they had a special on, and we're seeing the same trends here that they had in those segments. So, you know, parenting is different, and you know, we can't replace. We can't have parents at home. We can't tell them what to do with their kids and get them out of bed.
So, Rob, aren't we, we were all in agreement about the social
That's
worker.
exactly, I was just gonna say.
Yeah, I had that.
It's in here as.
From before.
So
What about the secretary, the extra secretary at the door up there? Can she help with any of this?
Yes, they, at my school, and I know at the LB, the one secretary is in charge of attendance. They're the ones getting the letters ready, running the reports every few weeks, getting them sent out.
And that's what happens at the high school.
They work along with the
Yes,
assistant
ma'am.
principal.
Well, we have one up that we hired up at the DO that was supposed to help with PIMS. Well, now that's not happening. Can she help with that?
We can look to add whatever.
I think
won't
she
be able to
needs
be like-
more work.
She can help with attendance, but not really, the running of the reports, the secretary will take care of. But it's all the time that the principal has to meet with the parents, meet with the students, like they have to do the state meetings are required by law before you can put them to the magistrate. Have to go to the magistrate for every single one of them. Tom?
Just want to add, the one thing that we sorely lack and that is really needed to reach parents is to actually make home visits. And we just don't do that. Oh, when we had Mrs. Fairfoss, when we had a truancy officer, she would actually make home visits, and that makes all the difference in the world. But nobody has time for that.
And honestly, this day and age is not safe.
Well, you need two people.
Well,
You should have two
usually-
people do it. Even proving residency, because there are
Right.
people we question and we can't get to their homes enough to verify they do not live there.
When we
But
do
it's,
go, I usually go with them, it's not your fault.
yeah, that's usually two
Yeah,
people.
we go, you do go.
The other thing, today I went to court for 3 cases, and 2 should have been dismissed before we got there, but the parents don't hand in the notes. So now I'm just wasting my time going there, you know, and I could have fixed it prior to. So that's the thing, like, we get the data, and Kamara, I think, printed out 93 today, but we know 93 is not right. So then she has to sit there and go through all that, then she gives it to me, and then I find that there's errors in there. So it's just a long process, and I feel like that's all I'm doing. I'm not getting out in the classroom, and I have aspirations of, you know, helping our students, but we don't get time to do that whatsoever.
Well, and then on top of that, whenever all those SAIP meetings are taking place, then that turns into, for me, IEP revision meetings where we need to then create plans to
Right.
support the students, and then those are additional meetings.
Because then that goes into the IEP. the attendance. So it just filters down through so many people, eating up time. And by law, we have to do it. It's the law. You get so many days, we write letters and we, somebody gets in the magistrate.
Also, the MTSS people, Megan and Jill, they work on this as well. With the assistant
yeah, they're-
principal
yep.
and struggling students and that sort of thing, so.
Which takes a lot of time away from what they really should be doing.
Right.
That's very
So, I mean, it's just something that's out there that maybe the social workers can help pick up and help with.
I envision that that's going to be most of their jobs, and that and dealing with like any mental health issues.
Right.
I mean, so,
Hmm?
that's what I perceive.
I feel like that's.
So we can kind of throw it out to the board, like, do we want to look at a kind of self-service? Do you want to see how things go with the social workers?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. This was just the last one that was on our
Right,
list.
I just
so-
want to make sure,
I wanna-
so do we want to not put this on the agenda, okay?
Okay.
Let's go back to the special ed teachers.
Did we approve the job description and to post for the social worker?
Mary told me to put that on April.
This meeting, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So the last meeting, I did show the job description.
Yes.
And I was told to put it on,
Okay.
well, later on, I was told to put it on
Yeah.
for
Okay, perfect.
the April meeting.
So that's why I'm trying to take care of some of this now. So
Yeah.
the special ed teachers, let's talk about them. Do we want to do, how many?
2 and 1 this time.
2 and 1, so we're looking at 3 new special ed teachers. So we're looking at, Brian, salary wise, we're looking at what?
Now, that was put in the budget, right?
That social workers are putting budget.
I thought you put the 2 teachers in the budget.
So that's what I'm asking.
I mean, I've been using a $60,000 starting salary,
Mhm.
and.
With benefits.
And then benefits is another.
Since it's not in the budget.
Yeah, I built the social workers into the budget, which will.
But the teachers aren't, the special ed teachers.
No.
So if they're not in the budget, do you feel 2 is a good compromise?
I do, I'd be concerned putting in 3,
Three's
just
about
from this
340,000.
perspective.
2 is about 180.
What did the administrators say?
Yeah.
Well, they were asking for 3. They were asking for 1 TK.
We'll take whatever we can get.
Some other things too, don't they? Yeah.
No, we're not doing that.
Because then essentially we'd be putting in a social worker and another special education teacher, each of the LP and a PK, and then the high school would also be getting a social
Yes.
worker.
Yeah.
That's a
Girl, how do you feel?
nice.
2? Would you like to put 2 on?
Yep, 2.
2?
Okay.
So Rob, we will.
Minimum of 2.
Okay, please put 2 social workers on. How about this, the special education supervisor, or what you were talking about, the BCBA or the RBT?
My concern is that's a uniform person. That's gonna be really hard to find, but if you go find that,
Well, it won't be hard to find a special ed supervisor with ABA experience. I know a handful who have both. If you have a supervisor and they have an admin cert or a supervisor cert, and they happen to have ABA autistic experience, they're gonna be able to help in any capacity.
yes, I understand.
That will be easier to find. My concern too is if you get just a BCBA, they're limited in how much they can help, the job becomes a coach. Not everyone's gonna listen to someone's new strategies that they wanna put in place because they haven't been directed to do so by an administrator. And that's a well-known fact across education. So if it is only a BCBA on the teacher contract, the other issue is the cost of what it takes to get that certificate. Our salaries are not necessarily high enough to bring a BCBA on a teacher contract without a stipend, being that it's gonna cost at least $500 for one round of their test. Most don't pass it in the first. The program's expensive and the internship is catastrophic. It's 1,800 hours that I last looked, and they usually have to pay that out of hand for $100 an hour plus to complete their internship. So to put that on the teacher contract and then give them
no administrative ability to guide staff makes that job difficult for that person.
And we can look at, we can go back to Kim, and that's one reason why we moved Kim to the admin role, was the fact that, you know, she was supervising Title I, but she could not tell him what to do. So even though she knew what she needed to do, it would have to come from Kathy, it'd have to come from somebody else, to be that instructor, because she was still in the teacher's contract.
Have somebody, if we can get somebody that has that rapport too, I think, you know, that's the other proven fact, when you can work well with somebody, you don't need them to give you the directive. They're teaching you when you're working together on that, on what's best for kids.
In theory, I absolutely agree with you.
My opinion, I don't support bringing on another administrator.
I don't either, not at all.
I would like to see that in a classroom, whether it's BCBA, RBTs, however you want, or leaving it be, and let's look at doing the special ed teachers, but I do not support an administrative position.
I don't either, we're getting top heavy.
Do you have that budgeted, Brian,
The BCBA.
the special education supervisor?
I call it a BCBA position, I put it in there at 80,000, I did put it on the admin side.
So 80,000,
Yeah, that's right, because it was either with an admin position at say 80,000 or,
so you do have that.
or it could have been a teacher plus a
You'd
stipend.
be able to get an admin for $80,000 on a 12-month contract. That,
I
I
mean, my
would think
thing is
that
not-
would need to
Oh,
be.
right.
Started
But then I
at-
was comparing it to put it on the teacher's salary, where
Right.
at 60, then you gotta add
Right.
how much in a stipend, so I kinda cut
10,
I
12
kinda cut
months,
them.
and yes, I said, I don't support doing an administrative position. If we want to look at that in a different way, and it's hands-on with kids, I would be on board supporting that, but I do not support another Act 93 going in.
I agree.
Mr.
President,
Yes.
are we still advertising for a school psychologist?
Mhm.
Okay.
That one's already, that one's already in there.
I keep crossing my fingers.
No, we have one, and that, I was gonna talk to the board afterwards, the one we interviewed. So I talked to her,
Oh, okay.
this week to finalize it.
Sounds good to me.
So what do
Thank you.
do, Michelle?
Which Michelle?
We just have to decide if we're putting this on the agenda or not. So, no, Michelle? So, yeah. So maybe we can kind of relook at this another time.
Okay, so next week,
I
I
guess,
will have, you said 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then the 3 social worker positions. That's for April, right? Just wanna make sure.
yes.
Okay.
I hear a lot of concerns and questions about the position being an Act 93. Can I just get a little more information and insight as to your concern?
I think I'm always pretty vocal on it. I want hands-on in the classroom. I think when we are in the fiscal position that we are in, and we're looking at budget concerns, and we're looking at money, while I understand we need to support the pieces of compliance, our paperwork and up on that end, we need to fix our education. Our
But
kids, our kids are not necessarily learning in the best way that we can. We've, as a board community, we've talked about this, so while I understand that this is going to help with compliance, in my opinion, with the budget that we have, I would rather see that money go to a third special education teacher who's going to be in a classroom than somebody who's not going to be in there and be hands-on with it. That's where it's coming from me, as to why I wouldn't want to approve something that's in Act 93. I want to approve people that are gonna be in the rooms with kids.
And I agree with you. The last role that I had is what I'm copying this off of. I did not have an office. I was a supervisor, and I was directed to be in the classroom as a supervisor, modeling, hands-on, writing FBAs, and doing all of that every single day. It is what you're requesting.
And you did say though about needing a teaching cert with part of it, possibly having it.
To be a
possibly,
BCBA and have a
case
case.
going into the classroom. So again, Fawn, while I appreciate it, I understand what you're saying. I'm not supporting something that is not somebody that's going to be spending their time in the classroom for at least the majority of their time should be with kids. That's me, that's my statement on it. I want to see us bringing in people who are going to support the children.
say too on attendance, we have this, the third quarter incentive coming up. Some of you guys asked, why aren't they coming to school? What I do know with the third quarter incentive that's coming up Friday here for the kids that met the grade requirements, the attendance requirements, and discipline requirements, they're actually looking at their attendance now, and we have 63% of our kids active for the incentive program. So they're looking. So I think if we keep going with the MTSS program and the incentive program, we can get them to look at their attendance and be cognizant of coming to school. So I just want to throw that out there.
Make some fun stuff for them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Make it fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just get these two rather quick before we go up to the budget, but Tom, do you want to talk about the Antietam trip? This is a yearly trip that the History Club does.
Yes, if they go to, it's an overnight trip, they go to Antietam and to Harper's Ferry. Mr. Hall leads the trip, Mr. Ellison. Mr. Ellison's here.
I know, I'm just gonna say,
glasses, but I'm
Sorry. They essentially fund the trip themselves, but it's kind of a bare bones trip. They sleep in cabins. Yes, but they fund everything.
We haven't done it since.
So to be
I say the COVID stopped it.
COVID stopped it.
Yes.
We're trying to get it back.
But it's a great hands-on experience for the kids, and they're roughing it a bit, and it's good for them.
We elevated a little bit.
We have cabins, yes.
We offered the little cabins, but some kids are still doing tents.
And it's a school bus. School driver, you take care of the expenses for the driver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if the board wants to donate some money, that would be fine, but they have budgeted, for
They
sure.
take care of the hotel, or if they want a cabin, we'll ask them, whichever they want.
Right.
so this will just be on the agenda for approval because it's an overnight trip.
And it's because
So it's no cost.
And it's because it's out of state.
Yeah, it's out of state.
That's
It's no-
the
it's-
end of
it's no-
April.
It's no cost.
And when is it, the end of April?
And it's coming
How
up.
many kids do you
Yes.
have signed up?
I think we got 28 right now.
That's pretty awesome.
That's between the history club and Mr. Holland's Civil War class. And he has a small Civil War class.
Great.
So I'm just giving you a heads up that that's what the trip is gonna be when you see it on the agenda. The last thing we have is just the school counseling plan. So, this is called a 339 plan, and what it does is it looks at all the counseling things that we provide in our district. So, and it'll go down through, and it's posted as a thing, it's 62 pages, I don't wanna go through 62 pages, but, it's due every 3 years, so our years are up. It is due this year for us to submit to the state. So all the counselors, and Kathy, and, other people, we were all in on this, trying to get this plan revised. So what it does, it just talks about, you know, as a leader, what do we currently do? As an advocate, what do we do? And it'll go all the way down to, in middle school, we do X, Y, Z. Or in kindergarten, we do this. All the way through 12th grade, this is what we do as counselors in the district. So it's called the Counseling 339 Plan. It is on the agenda. It does need to be shown to the board. And then, so it'll be on the board 23rd just to take a look at, to approve it. And then I can submit it to the state. It's good for 3 more years. And then we'll see you again in 2028 to do it.
Did it have to be posted?
There is no posting.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was one that had to be posted.
Yeah, no, this one, there was no posting requirement to it. I will put it onto the website for everybody to look at. I'll put it in the news section, for everybody to look at. But this is, the plan, it's very similar. We've looked at other plans as well. It's very similar to the other plans that everybody uses. The template's pretty much the same.
I looked through it. Do you have a counseling, like an advisory council that the state requires? That you're supposed to meet twice a year? I didn't see it anywhere.
Or on here.
It's supposed to involve like parents and students and community members and stakeholders.
That, we have not done that yet. That's part of what to do. That's.
It might be on there, I might have
No,
missed
it hasn't been done. I know at the high school it hasn't been done,
Okay.
but we've talked about we need to get this going.
Yeah, usually you hold a district-wide one in October and March. And what I've done is, I go through and we talk about what the social workers do, or we talk about our career readiness, or we talk about our PBIS programs, and we share it with the community, but I think you need to have that as part of this plan, and I didn't see it anywhere, Rob.
All right, I will look at that tomorrow
Okay.
Yeah.
to make that adjustment. But this is what it is.
The rest of it looks great.
Okay, the counselor they did put a lot of time into this to try to make sure to build it and to revise it, make sure everything's up to date in it. The last time this was due, it was due through, I think COVID just hit, or we were coming out of COVID, and it didn't really need to be, now it needs to be submitted out FRCP, like, so now it's actually a submission to the state, so we have to submit this. Okay, Brian, you get to close out the evening on a high note. I got it right here. You just tell me when you want me to move it.
All right, you can go to the first slide. So our first slide is our tentative 25-26 budget. Just so a couple notes, we kind of discussed them already. There are 3 social workers built into this plan. There is a CCBA built into this. The psychologist is built into this, but their salary will offset from savings that we use third parties for now, so it shouldn't be too much of a net problem. So just go right down to the bottom. There's a budget shortfall of $3.9 million. This includes $1.2 million of improvements that are on the next page that Charlie gave. Most of those are those tier 1, tier 2 projects that are in the feasibility study. We just want to try and start hitting some of those projects as needed. I can go through more of this detail if you want me to, but it's just kind of overall, our expenses are almost 54 million, and we're taking in just under 50 million in revenue. If we increase to the 4%, which is the max allowed by Act this year, it'll bring in about another $1.2 million in income or revenue. So most of our numbers are relatively straightforward. 60% of our budget is salary and benefits. So those are our big drivers there. Our purchase, property, and tech is mostly 2.6 million of that is IU expenses, which we have brought down over the last couple of years. Transportation tuition, that includes our Aurora contract, DHA, cyber costs, and CCTI. That makes up most of that. Supplies are classroom supplies for teachers, facility supplies for Charlie's department, and tech supplies. And then our last two, the other objects and other uses, that is principal and interest for the most part.
Do you have the projected, new contract?
Yes, the contracts are built into this.
And the other one that we're working on?
Yes, I have a projected amount in that one as
Okay.
well. So yeah, so all proposed increases are built into this contract. Or built into the budget. If we want to move on to the next page, it breaks out the projects that are proposed. The one at the bottom is the roof project. It may start this year, but it's a cost of $843,000. We have a grant for $322. It's going to be a net outlay of cash for the district of $521,000. We reserved for that for this year, so that money will be rolled over for next year when we're going to be spending it. But these are the other projects that Charlie feels that need to be addressed as soon as possible. Domestic hot water heaters, the boiler is on this, so that may be addressed earlier than expected. But these are all projects that are either on the feasibility study or Charlie feels they are necessary to be done.
How much did you, also put in there just to hold in case of an emergency?
They're outside of not doing these projects,
Mhm.
there's no extra fund for emergency. If there was emergency, we would most likely not do a project.
But we currently have,
We have 390 in our capital fund project, or capital fund account.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
so we do have somewhat of an emergency fund.
So there is money somewhere,
Yeah.
that's in the capital fund.
Yeah.
In case there
next page, some more detail, showing our expenses by object. These are our biggest expenses. This does not include the capital projects. This is just salaries, benefits, professional services, and debt service. So I said salaries and benefits is 60% of our expenses. And currently we are average for Pennsylvania schools. If you go to the next slide, 60% as of 22-23 is where Pennsylvania schools mostly are in salary and benefits. As you can see, they are, this is a PASBO slide, they are about to approach each other in the next couple of years. Benefits are increasing faster than salaries. So we are heading towards the point where they're going to be equal in the near future. Next slide. So this is, mostly I want to show the cost of cyber, which is the blue line. In the year 19 and 20, our cyber costs were about just under $2.5 million. In 23-24, they were over $4 million. So we had our cyber costs have doubled in 5 years. There are budget plans that could hopefully address this in the near future, possibly as early as next year. But there's still question marks. If the current budget stands, we would lose $273,000 in funds that we received last year, based on how they would change the formula. We wouldn't get our cyber contribution money.
Yeah, so
And
we are actually number 2 in the state out of 500 districts with the amount of money we're losing from the state. The only district that's losing more money than us is the whole entire Pittsburgh school district. We are at $272,000. We are losing the most out of the state budget. And when I was with at the legislative state meeting at PASA, we had some representatives and senators there, and I told them that. And they said, hopefully the BEF, they're gonna adjust it for basic ed funding to give more money on that side, because what they did is they took all the money and they put it in adequacy, and they put it into tax equity. If you didn't get it last year, they didn't change the formula. They used the same exact formula. So if you got it last year, you get this year, whether you need it or not, it doesn't matter. They just shifted it over. So we didn't get it last year, and we won't get it this year. But we lose, because they got rid of cyber reimbursement, which was $350,000 to us. They got rid of that out of the budget. They lowered our special ed by $10,000, and we only gave them $79,000 or $89,000 in the BEF. So overall, we lost $272,000. And from what PASA sent out, that puts us number 2 in the state for the most amount of money being lost. So we were talking to senators. They feel that there will be something done with cyber, but it's not going to go as presented. So they're looking at an $8,000 flat rate. He said that's a pie in the sky. That's not going to happen.
And we lost that again because
the formula is not in our favor. Our values of our properties are high. I know we have individuals who struggle. I said, but overall, family incomes are up. Values of properties are way up, and we have not raised taxes. And that formula,
and that's why we didn't.
that formula takes all that into account. And the state says, you have the ability to raise funds. You are choosing not to raise it. We are not going to provide you with extra funds when the system says the local taxpayers should be paying the bill.
Who was shooting off like that, Brian? Who was, or Rob? Who was saying?
That Brian and I were both, we were both at a budgeting meeting, and that was right from the state. They showed us the
Who
formula.
was it in particular?
It was one of the heads of the state finance department. And they went through the whole entire formula, and they said, look right here. This is where you are getting, this is why you are losing money, because your ratio is going way down, so your multiplier is going way down. And we lose funds.
Did someone say that they want to do an 8,000 per?
Cyber, yeah, just for regular ed cyber kids.
Right, and they
Currently
said-
we're at 16.5.
Yep.
Proposed go to 8, we would save
We would save $1.3 million.
If that
But
went through.
I was told by the people who were on that committee, they're on the education committee, they said that's not gonna
Were
go.
they all senators and?
Representatives and senators. So, and they said that $8,000 not gonna, they're looking at more maybe a $10,000 flat, 10, 11. But the real side, when they read these book, and they're really looking at it, is the special ed side. Because so many, special ed, we pay almost $35,000 for a special ed kid. And they could have an OHI, which could be like ADHD, it could be speech, it could be anything like that, and we're paying $35,000 for that. Now, the state is beginning to look at that, because the special ed rate, I believe, for cyber schools is around like 37%. And there's a reason for that, because that's where the money's at. So, but yeah, so that's where we are with that. So we are number 2 in the state in the amount of money we are losing in funding.
Yeah, so any change in the budget proposal would help us, hopefully, but we still have projected $3.9 million deficit, so keep that in mind. Next slide. So this is a kind of a common makeup of our revenue. 58% is real estate taxes locally, 14% is other local taxes, income, or EIT, amusement tax. State makes up 26%, and the Fed make up 2%.
Do you expect that to change?
I budgeted us slightly lower for Fed this year, maybe about 10% less. I'm not sure. I'm hearing that you may get your money, but it may be delayed. So look it down just a little bit.
And the state did say if the feds just knock money out, like there's not money for them to come in and fill that hole. So.
Yeah, and the state, so you can look at it on the next slide. I didn't project that here. The state, so currently they're still negotiating the budget. I think there's currently a projected $3 billion deficit in the Pennsylvania state budget, which they have to fill. And over the next 2 years, they're projected larger deficits. So I don't think we can project a lot of increase in state funding over the next couple of years. If we remain flat, would be, I think, smart. But with the state's projected down, shortfalls, that's going to trickle down to school districts, and I can't really expect any more money coming from the state outside of a change in the formula where we get a bigger piece of the pie. So then this takes us to our fund balance. So we ended the last year at $14,000,007. Our projected about $600,000 loss this year, and then we'll be at 14.1. The shortfall, which I project to be 3.9, will end next year with $10 million in fund balance. Which is about 22% of our revenue, which according to Moody's is a pretty good number to be at, between 20 and 25%. And then these are just going to take us through a couple scenarios. I know I talked about them before, but I updated some of our numbers. So this is no tax increase over the next 5 years. Obviously, we're going to trend downward. And in this, in the expenses, the $1.2 million I budgeted for this year, I rolled that into all the next year, since we have a $20 million of feasibility study projects that we've been, notified about. I've included $1.2 million in the future budgets to address those needs, not including any type of, realignment of schools, just addressing HVAC problems, electrical problems as needed. I figured that was just a good number to use throughout. So no increase. Obviously,
So you added in $1 million for that?
1.2 every year from 25, 26 onward. The next one is if
So,
we.
Brian, you're saying in 28, 29, that will basically be that's what you're saying?
Yeah, if we continue at the spending rate with regular increases in other expenses and trying to address our facilities needs, we're gonna end up below zero entering 28, 29. However, if we can address our funding needs, and if we want to use the Act 1 index as our goal, we can level out our fund balance. So this is the same revenues, same expenses, but it's hitting the max of the Act 1 index over the next several years. This year, it's 4%. The projected for the next 4 years after that are 3.6, 3.2, 3%, 3%. The actual index is going down as inflation is going down. So it's limiting how much we can raise taxes every year without going to exceptions. This is just using the actual index.
Brian, are you able to do like a slide, or I forget what you did last year, something where you put in the millage and showed how much?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, we created that last year. So, and then one more.
He read your
just-
mind.
Just if we wanted to not raise taxes this year, kick the can down the road, you can see, and so this is no increase this year, but full actual increases for prior to the subsequent years. We're still slowly declining in our fund balance, because this year, with that being a 4% increase, you get the most bang for your buck. It is the largest increase we can take over the next 5 years. So I'm just want to show you, if you don't want to do it this year, you're going to be trying to dig out a hole going forward. And then, is this the slide you're talking about?
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So this is showing our current millage of 4,552, and the increase, that's full Act 1, 1.8 point something increase. It's 4.7 would be you going the full 4%. For most people, it's 48% of the population would get a $54 increase in the tax bill, and we're hearing from the homestead is about what the increase in homestead will be this year too.
And last year they received an increase in the homestead as well,
$62.
$62, the average person.
And then this
Rate
year-
got
We're
refunded,
hoping to
so your
be
actual,
around
your actual
$60.
taxes went down to $62 last year.
So we should be out very soon. I just got homestead applications were approved. So once they know all the numbers, then they'll allocate the homestead money to the school district.
This, when the homestead comes out, that's what we need to
That's what we have to
inform
do.
people of.
Yeah, it should be out soon. I just got the applications are all approved. So now they just take that approval and whatever the pot of money was. We know they increased the pot, so we're hoping there'll be an increase to us. That'll trickle down to our taxpayers.
We just bill less on that homestead act. They don't get money or anything.
No, they just pay less. So
They just pay less.
Yeah, instead of getting a $200 discount, they get a $250 discount.
Right. So overall, their taxes go down, but they pay less.
Right.
And by doing the, full Act 1 index, you're saying that we're going to make over $1 million?
Yeah.
One, two. 1.2.
Yep. So we had an actual increase in assessed value that was giving us about $700,000 of just if we maintained our current levels. But if we went to full Act 1, we could bring in an additional 1.2 million in revenue this year and years subsequent to this year.
They will get more funding as well.
And yes, it should affect the formula in a positive way, and we
Correct.
should increase our, we can't count, I asked that question, he said there's 499 other school districts that have to make decisions too, so they can't really tell you how much it's going to change.
Okay. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, Brian, so, we're back to the issue that delinquent taxes of $2 million that we have in the books or something like that. What did we down so we don't want to do that?
Well, I talked to MSR, they came in and spoke to me, they outlined their plan in more detail, I told them my concerns, they addressed the concerns. I am going to recommend that we pass it when we have our board meeting.
So,
Yeah, sell them to MSR, they give us a loan based on that amount. They pay us, our regular tax collectors do their regular tax collecting, the county and elite, and they remit the money to MSR, who just took out a loan basically on our taxes.
so in other words, would that add $2 million to our?
It would add $500,000 to $700,000. So, because it's still just our regular delinquent taxes that we would collect anyway over time, except it would give us a one-time windfall of some of the older taxes, we would get money for that.
that aren't gonna come in anyway. They've been on the books for years.
Right, so we get the benefits of collecting that one time, and then we would get our, kind of our regular delinquent taxes, and we would just get it in a lump sum rather than over 12
You're
months.
gonna recommend that.
I am.
It's almost the same thing that you presented last time, right?
Yes. Yes. Chris? Okay. Oh, okay, sorry, Chris. Any other questions? Okay. All right.
Is there anything else that you want to see for, like, the next meeting? Like, in May, you have to do the initial budget, so is there anything that you guys want us to give you? Besides the homestead, which we have to wait for that to come in, but, is there anything else you want to show, to break it down?
Someone give me like an estimate.
I know we talked about getting our one committee together, so we
Yes.
can kind of talk about that.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so, well,
Okay.
I'll reach out to you.
All right, yeah, reach out, then we'll meet, and that way we can give you everything that you guys want to see. All right. Okay? All right, that is the end. Okay, all right, I'll reach out.
And, Rob, do you have this meeting afterwards? Are you doing anything?
I just have like really quick